Hey, this is Dave from metalepidemic.com. Thank you for checking out our YouTube video. Please feel free to hit the subscribe button below if you like this type of content, and we hope you enjoy the review. What is up, guys? Dave here from Metal Epidemic, joined by Duncan and by Kyle, back for another album review. And for this review, the guys and I have been checking out the new album from Danish Blackgaze quintet, Mall. The band's new album Diorama will be released on November 5th via Nuclear Blast Records. So, album number 2 from these Danes. This one coming 3 years since the release of their debut. The band also signed with Nuclear Blast for this release, which is pretty cool, after being on Holy Roar for the first album. Not gonna lie, was hella excited for this one. Jord was like an absolute gem of an album, and it kind of came at a time where like the post-Black thing was pretty saturated. Deafheaven had also like put a pretty strong album in 2018. But Moll came back with an album that was like full of mood, very ethereal, but like surprisingly aggressive at the same time. And I think like fans of the band would be lying if they said they weren't excited about this new release from the guys. This one again, 8 tracks, just like Jord, about 48 minutes roughly in length, which is a smidge longer than Jord by about 6 or 7 minutes. The album was recorded and mixed by none other than Mr. Chew Madsen. He's
on this is what he said when he let them listen to it.
He's worked with all the big ones like the Gojiras, the Meshuggahs, the Nemec, the Haunted, Extol, like just all the big metal bands. So like that's big deal. Like Chew Madsen working on your album is pretty fucking awesome. The creative process for this was also a little different, given the circumstances. The guys kind of bounced different demo files back and forth online instead of like meeting up for rehearsals. But it actually ended up coming together a bit quicker than the last album, because they had probably a better understanding of what they wanted to achieve with this release and where they wanted to go with their sound. So Diorama is basically like a 3-dimensional model, like a miniature or like an exhibit of some kind. And lyrically, this album is inspired partly by the movie Hereditary, a 2018 horror movie by Mr. Ari Aster. Look at Duncan, he's just like, let's talk about Hereditary. Can we just talk about Hereditary?
To put people, I do a horror podcast, and we recently, over the summer, collectively as a group of 20 podcasters, reviewed 120 movies from 2010 right through to the end of 2019, and then kind of graded them all out. And the number one movie, horror movie for that decade was Hereditary, which is my number one horror movie of that decade. So Dave, to say I'm an expert here, I'll be fact checking these motherfuckers. No, I'm always joking. No, very excited. Did not know that. That's cool.
Yeah. And obviously in the film, Toni Collette's character makes these like miniature models, like dioramas basically, of like traumatic experiences in her life. And this helps her kind of work through these events, but obviously ultimately she ends up obsessing so much that she kind of loses herself rather than it helping her deal with the trauma. And Mall vocalist Kim was inspired by that, and as such the lyrical concepts of the album kind of encapsulate his process of dealing with various experiences in his life. So on the actual album itself, I think that like the first thing that kind of hit me about this when it finished was how much this should be listened to as a whole piece. And the weird thing is, I loved the singles as individual tracks. I was like, yep, those completely work. But when I heard it as a whole with those tracks, everything made so much more sense. It's such a like cohesive sounding album. Like it flows perfectly from track to track. But all the tracks have like their own personality or individuality, so it never feels like you're listening to like one long song. And as I said, these tracks, as they do work as singles, but I found it so much more rewarding to listen to them as together as a whole and get the kind of full effect of the journey that they take you on, because each track kind of takes you through this kind of roller coaster of emotions, like from the opening track, Fractor being like probably one of the biggest surprises for me, just like how uplifting it is. Like it's like, what is going on? This, like, the guitar melody and lead work is very like almost like post-rock type, like, dare I say, like almost like I had a kind of cheeriness to it. Like I was like, well, I'm not expecting this at all. Like obviously it goes through the various twists and turns as it goes on. It has some like really dark moments, but as a whole, it wasn't the opener I was expecting, but I absolutely loved it, and I think it was the perfect choice track to open the album with. Photophobic then does put you on this like path of darkness, though. Like it really kind of real blackened riffs and vicious blast beats from Ken on drums, but again, it has moments where this like is taken to the next level. These big open moments that feel really profound. The clean vocals as well, really nice touch. I think adding in that kind of contrast in vocal style really elevated the tracks. Surf was like one of my favorite tracks. A more kind of riff heavy, more like metal sounding than Blackgaze. The kind of main riff reminded me a little bit of like Misery Signals, which is awesome. I love that band. But the lead work in the background was like, it kind of reminded me of something from like What It Is to Burn by Finch. That's what I kept hearing in my head when that lead work. I was like, that's so like Finch, like it's unreal, but a really, really cool mix, an interesting mix of tones and styles on that one, that all really came like together brilliantly. I loved how they build the tracks on this album as well. You can hear they've really like honed their craft in that part of the writing and the song structure process. Tracks like Vestige that go through this like ebb and flow of like darkness and light, showing all sorts of dynamics, really fascinating to listen to, and I was just like totally zoned into it the whole time. The different vocal tones on tracks like Redacted, like he adds in that almost like a kind of death metal tone, which I wasn't expecting, but it adds another like texture into the mix, which just, again, as I said earlier, it gives each track something different, to give it its like individuality. The synth work on that track was amazing as well. Sounds huge. The last two tracks absolutely floored me. Going from, I'm not sure how you pronounce this. Is it Vesend? I'm not sure how you pronounce that, but an absolute. Thank you. Absolutely. I thought that was an absolute highlight on the album. It begins off like one of the kind of rawest tracks on the album. The guitars just ooze this really like black kind of nasty tone, but it also has one of the most uplifting melodies in the chorus. So it really takes you through this like the peaks and troughs of emotions. And actually, when I got to the end of that track, I thought that would have worked as a closing track. Like it had enough of a climax that it felt like it could have ended there. But I'm so glad they didn't, though, because that title track that finishes the album is, in a word, stunning. Like just absolutely stunning. There's like two vocal parts on the last track, male and female, kind of like duetting on it's probably the album's most like melodic and kind of atmospheric track. And it's weird, it doesn't really get like heavier. Like vocally it does, like obviously the kind of black metal vocal comes in, but musically it doesn't really get heavier, but they still managed to give the track this feeling of like a build and like a crescendo, which is I just thought was amazing. I was totally speechless after that last track, absolutely speechless. I thought it was the perfect end to that album. It felt like very much like a conclusion, like the kind of final chapter in the album, so I was absolutely loved it. The production I thought was spot on. Like it really kind of hit the sweet spot of being like in between kind of raw and earthy, but still having a polish that like accentuates the big moments on the album. I think Stu Madsen has done a great job of giving it like a kind of individual sound. It's not generic or like cookie cutter at all, but that's what Stu does. Like he crafts a production specifically for the band he's working with, rather than use the same presets and techniques on every production. This is, for me, I thought this was Moll's finest moment to date. And this album has fucking booted the doors off the entry to my end of year list and fucking nonchalantly pulled up a chair at the top table. Like, I love this from start to finish. I've listened to it an obscene amount of times, like an unhealthy amount of times, but I love this album. I've just went back to it constantly for the last couple of weeks. Really enjoyed it. What about you guys? What do you make of this? Duncan, what do you think?
So I've been chasing you up for this. Because I know it's been floating around in the ether for a while. We may or may not know the person doing PR for this. And I remember a couple of weeks ago she'd said that press packs had been sent out. And pretty much from then I've been on it, Dave. I've been like a monkey on his back. Just saying, give me the goods, Dave. Give me the fucking goods. I've been like, this is one of the more exciting releases for me this year. This is one of the great examples of where singles completely drag you in instead of necessarily kind of, turning you off a little bit when you're hearing, you're like, I don't know about this, or I don't know about new sounds. To me, everything I heard on this was like a leveling up, an extension of the previous album. Just sounded like they just refined everything. And I'll put my cards on the table right now. I think this album is a fucking masterpiece. I think they've nailed a masterpiece in their second album, which is fucking ridiculous. Like, they should be thoroughly ashamed of themselves. Give us at least 3 or 4 albums before you hit your stride. But these guys have done it now. Like, the fucking balls on these guys to release a kind of Blackgaze, Shoegaze album when the predominant band that everyone's going to be talking about this year within that genre has already released a fucking critically amazing album. And they've come in and shown that actually you don't have to go fully to the side that Deafheaven have done, but you can retain a huge amount of that blackened element in here, but make it as catchy, as memorable, as commercial as what Deafheaven's done. Is like truly remarkable, truly remarkable to listen to. This album is oxymoronic from start to finish. It is constantly abutting itself with bleak, like really, really bleak, uplifting moments that shouldn't work. And and it should be a tired trick. That to me is when I hear things like that, I'm like, well, that's a gimmick, don't overuse it. But the album was awash with it. And to be honest, every time it comes in, I'm like, that's perfect, fits the song amazingly. Interestingly, you mentioned Finch. What I had in my head when I was listening to it was like, if Glassjaw ever became a kind of a Blackgaze band, Moll might be the band that they sound like. A lot of that kind of cleaner work reminded me at times of the kind of cleaner experimental work that Glassjaw would do, specifically on their second album. Maybe not so much on the first album. Has these elements and really like these major key moments that just like make you feel really happy whilst listening to a man bare his fucking soul and scream his throat raw. The clean vocals on this are like sublime. I think they work really well, and I'm with you. By the time you hit Diorama, Diorama might be my favourite closing song this year for an album. It's just between that and the closing song, which I cannot remember the name, from the King Women album. This year spoiled me for music, by the way. My top 10 list has been ripped up. See, the last 3 months, it might as well have just. I shouldn't even bother doing that halfway podcast with us in the middle of the year, where we're like, let's do our top 10 list, because it's going to fucking not resemble anything like that by the time we get to the end. It is honestly just the bands just seem to be getting better. And I'll tell you what I'm like really happy about is we've moved out of that phase of the kind of depressing lockdown sounding bands where you're like that. This album is a hugely positive sounding album whilst retaining, like I say, a lot of teeth and a lot of grit. I'm with you. Photophobic, which was one of the singles we've heard before. Also give them credit. I love their singles. Absolutely love them. Also love all the artwork that's accompanied it. Like, to be a band in this genre and use essentially pastel pink lighting is a bold choice, but fucking totally works for them. Once again, it's like juxtaposition, oxymoronic, using words that I learned in high school in a review. Look at me. Master of the English language. But yeah, Surface probably as close as you'll get to like a conventional song here that follows a more metallic thing, and I think the album needs that for sure. I think it keeps that foot in that genre comfortably to say, well, we haven't completely removed it. Once again, I'm not looking at Deafheaven because I love that album, but you know, it doesn't. Yeah, it still keeps itself committed there. But I mean, this is a triumph not only for Chew Madsen, who this is a very un-Chew production. I know what you're saying. They've given that, but this is not the production you associate with that producer.
No,
you expect clinical precision, and this has got warmth and heat to it, and yeah, it definitely has darkness and cold as well. There's a really warm tone that comes through, specifically in the guitars. It's mostly the guitars actually. Those cleaner sections and the effects are using on them are just wonderful. I mean, it just made me just felt constantly invited to listen to the song, as opposed to, well, it's just the next song. I felt like I was being beckoned in. I love that about it. This front to back is a flawless album. Like, I'm like, to say I'm excited is another, like, I have no idea how they top this. At this stage, second album, I have no idea how they top this. I think this is impeccable, and very much like Dave, I'm back to the drawing board again, like to see how things, because this could be top 5. This could be top 3. Honestly, if I keep listening to it on the level that I've been doing, this could easily be top 3. An absolutely stunning, incredible album. If there is one album you listen to this fucking month, nay, this year, Diorama by Moll is, and I'm not even sure we're pronouncing it right. It's probably Mool or something like that. I can see Kyle laughing. Yeah. I could see him laughing when you said it earlier on. I was like, give him his moment, Kyle, for you.
I'm not going to take it away. That was pretty close.
But this is absolutely fucking incredible. Well done, guys, and thank you very much for allowing me to be a little part of it. It genuinely floored me. Fucking floored me.
Well, when I said the word Blackgaze to Kyle, it gave me that look like, Dave, what are you doing here?
Who are you, Dave? Why have you done this to me?
I have no idea where Kyle is going to go in this. I have no idea. I've stopped being able to try and predict what Kyle thinks about albums.
I'm confident. I'm coming down where he's with us. He's in camp right and not in camp wrong.
He was pretty stone-faced throughout that review.
He's playing a game, Dave. 3D chess. He's playing his own dioramic. Sort of review here. See?
Okay, Kyle.
I don't know why you guys have been so hard on this album. I thought it was really good.
I'm sorry, I need to take the balls of this album out my mouth so I can give them a lot of polish.
Yeah, when you said Blackgaze, I'm like, it's not my favourite genre, but it's slowly creeping in to be one of my favourite genres, because Deafheaven really surprised me. Yeah. And like the intro to this album hooked me in straight away. Then the black metal vocal started, and it kind of took me back a little bit, because I'm not going to lie, that is not my favourite style of vocal at all. But
works.
Yeah. Like, it really does. And it wasn't grating or annoying, because, let's be honest, when you put Chew Madsen on an album, you're going to get a fucking incredible album. Like, he is so good at taking a band's sound and, like, bringing out all the good stuff and everything that they are and putting it on a record. Like you said, no presets, no nothing. I'm sure he's got templates and all that shit to work with, but, like, I don't know how he does it, but every production he does just sounds exactly like the band should sound, and this is how this band should sound. Yeah. And there's no, like... I mean, you say he's clinical, but he's this is a very precise production. Even if it sounds very, I'm not going to say raw, because it doesn't sound that raw. It's got raw elements to it, but everything is very well placed and it's very in its space, but it also mixes together extremely well. You can still pick out the different instruments and the different parts that they're doing, but it mixes together beautifully. And it's not like Meshuggah, you can hear everything with, that's what you mean by precision. It's clinical. You can hear everything exactly where it is, but this all comes together really well as well. So I couldn't believe it when I heard it, because I was like, this is definitely, I could pretty much tell it was true right before I even read it. I was like, yeah, I thought so. It's just that high level of polish, but doesn't sound crap. You know, it's like you got those bands that sound super polished and it's just lifeless. But this has got so much life and soul and warmth to it. And even though those vocals weren't my style, but they did the clean vocals too, and they were amazing.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, more of that, please. And they did more, and I was happy.
The only thing that worries me is I loved that title track, and I'd want to see it live, but how are they going to pull that off with two vocalists?
I'm sure one of the guitarists or drummer or someone can sing too.
Or they don't play it live.
Or they don't play it live. They play it on a backing tape in mine. That's what I do.
You need to play that live. That's a fucking flawless track.
It's an amazing track. You're right, and but I've said that before. That is always the danger of having a guest vocalist.
You see, I was enjoying it all the way up until the last two tracks, right? I was right on board, loving almost every part of it. And the last two tracks came, and I looked at the time and I thought 8 minutes and 7.5 minutes. Fuck. But it didn't feel like it.
No.
It was like, it just flew by. I'm like, that was amazing. Like, so yeah, this band actually really surprised me. I'd heard of them before. I'd never heard anything they'd done.
Okay.
And I didn't know we had a friend that were doing their PR either. So it wasn't I was predisposed to like it. But no, I was really, really impressed. I think I'm going to go back and listen to their previous album. I can't believe this is their second
really
album.
Good, yeah.
Like for fuck, how is this their second album? I see what you mean. How can they top this? It's like, if they manage to top this on their third, I'm just going to stop making music.
You know what I mean? It sounds that this is a band that's found its sound.
Yeah,
like
super early on.
Like there's no part in here where I'm like that. You know what it's like? If they just done a little bit more, just experiment a bit.
Yeah.
There's literally, if they released
Yeah.
another album which sounded like this, I would still be singing its praises. Like that's how good it is.
It's great, yeah. Like there's no one that sounds like them. You can not equate. You can say like, oh, they're a bit like Deafheaven because it's a similar genre or same genre. But it's like that's it. That's all you can say. It's like if you like them, you might like these. That's all you can. There's no. I can't hear any like copying or imitations or anything. There's no lack of experimentation. Even on that one song, what was it called? Surf. It was like, it was a bit more conventional, but it was like very well done. And it was not like, oh, this is a bit of a boring song or predictable. It's like, oh, this is a great song.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm as surprised as you guys are, honestly.
Nice.
You said Blackgaze and I was like, oh, for fuck, but no, great.
Okay. Ratings for this new one from Mall.
Say it, Dave. There's no way you can't now.
I have zero negative things to say about this album. It is flawless front to back. I love it. I can't wait. I actually can't wait to listen to it again. And that's when you know this is a 5-star album. 5 out of 5. Duncan?
The ending on that last track, though, gives me chills.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's a 5-star album. I mean, like, masterpiece is what I said. If I then said, you're 4, I'd be a cunt. So let's not do that because I get called a lot. Although I've just realised the T-shirt that Dave bought me is Cult of Lilith, right? Yeah. Although it does look at a certain angle like it does say cunt. So
I was wondering, like, does that say what I think it says?
No, it says cult.
It does. Yeah.
Cult. Either that or clit. One of the two. I don't know. But anyway, this is a 5-star album. I honestly like. It has blown me away. It is in regular rotation and will be for a long, long time.
Awesome. And Kyle?
You see, there's the one thing about it that just didn't sit right with me, and that was the black metal vocals. I'm just not a fan, but even that was not enough for me to not give it 5 stars.
Kyle's first 5-star of the year, ladies and gentlemen.
First 5 stars of the year. It is the first 5 stars of today.
It's not often you get 3 5s, but there you are.
Yep.
Boom.
There we go. So, the new album from Mall, Diorama, is out on 5th of November on Nuclear Blast Records. I'll put some links below to their Facebook and to their Bandcamp so you can check out the pre-order for the album. Check this album out. No arguments. Just do it. Just listen to it.
Or don't.
Also,
we're not your dads.
I was going to say, also, like, the last thing I will say is the album artwork is the greatest 80s era Duran Duran cover art that was never used. I fucking everything about it. Just everything just tailored to me.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mall. We love you. Good night.
That is the review. Thanks for checking it out. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.